When I got married nearly 3 years ago, at the wedding reception I asked some of the older and wiser folks who were attending for a few words of advice from their own relationships to make sure my wife and I didn't shit the same bed. I think a lot of newlyweds do this, ask for relationship advice, not shit the same bed, especially after a few cocktails from the open bar they just paid for. But then I figured that with access to hundreds of thousands of smart, amazing people through my website, I could go one step further. Why not consult my readers? Why not ask them for their best relationship marriage advice? Why not synthesize all of their wisdom and experience into something straightforward and applicable to any relationship, no matter who you are? Why not crowdsource the ultimate relationship guide to end all relationship guides from the sea of smart and savvy partners and lovers who come to markmanson.net? This is what I asked anyone who has been married for 10+ years and is still happy in their relationship. What lessons would you pass down to others if you could? What is working for you and your partner? Also, to people who are divorced, what didn't work previously? The response was overwhelming. Almost 1,500 people got back to me, many of whom sent replies measured in pages, not paragraphs. It took weeks to comb through them all, but what I found stunned me. For a start, they were all incredibly repetitive. That's not an insult, actually, it's the opposite, not to mention, a relief. The answers came from smart and well-spoken people from all walks of life, from around the world, each with their own histories, tragedies, mistakes, and triumphs. And yet they were all saying pretty much the same dozen things. Which means that those dozen or so things must be pretty damn important. And they work. Got relationship problems? Well, I got solutions. Or at least ideas. Okay, I should probably just say I've got ideas for solutions, because God knows I can't fix everybody's shit. 1. Be together for the right reasons. Before we even get into what you should do in your relationship, let's start with what not to do. Don't ever be with someone because someone else pressured you to. I got married the first time because I was raised Catholic and that's what you were supposed to do. Wrong. I got married the second time because I was miserable and lonely and thought having a loving wife would fix everything for me. Also wrong. Took me 3 tries to figure out what should have been obvious from the beginning. The only reason you should ever be with the person you're with is because you simply love being around them. It really is that simple. Greg. When I sent out my request to readers for advice, I asked people who were on their second or third or fourth marriages what they did wrong the first few times. By far, the most common answer was being with the person for the wrong reasons. Some of these wrong reasons included pressure from friends and family, feeling like a loser because they were single and settling for the first person that came along, being together for image, because the relationship looked good on paper or in photos, not because the two people actually admired each other. Being young and naive and hopelessly in love and thinking that love would solve everything. Everything that makes a relationship work, and by work, I mean that it is happy and sustainable for both people involved, requires a genuine, deep-level admiration for each other. Without that mutual admiration, everything else will unravel. The other wrong reason to enter into a relationship is, like Greg said, to fix yourself. This desire to use the love of someone else to soothe your own emotional problems inevitably leads to codependence, an unhealthy and damaging dynamic between two people where there exists a tacit agreement to use each other's love as a distraction from one's own self-loathing. We'll get more into codependence later, but for now, it's useful to point out that love, itself, is neutral. It is something that can be both healthy or unhealthy, helpful or harmful, depending on why and how you love someone else and are loved by someone else. By itself, love is never enough to sustain a relationship. 2. Have realistic expectations about relationships and romance. You are absolutely not going to be gaga over each other every single day for the rest of your lives, and all this happily ever after bullshit is just setting people up for failure. They go into relationships with these unrealistic expectations. Then, the instant they realize they aren't gaga anymore, they think the relationship is broken and over, and they need to get out. No. There will be days, or weeks, or maybe even longer, when you aren't all mushy-gushy in love. You're even going to wake up some morning and think, ugh, you're still here. That's normal. And more importantly, sticking it out is totally worth it because in a day, or a week, or maybe even longer, you'll look at that person and a giant wave of love will inundate you, and you'll love them so much you think your heart can't possibly hold it all and is going to burst. Because a love that's alive is also constantly evolving. It expands and contracts and mellows and deepens. It's not going to be the way it used to be, or the way it will be, and it shouldn't be. I think if more couples understood that, they'd be less inclined to panic and rush to break up or divorce. Paula. In ancient times, people genuinely considered love a sickness. Parents warned their children against it, and adults quickly arranged marriages before their children were old enough to do something dumb on the back of their out-of-control emotions. That's because love, though able to make us feel giddy and high, as though we had snorted a shoebox full of cocaine, can also make us highly irrational. We all know that guy or girl who dropped out of school, sold their car, and spent the money to elope on the beaches of Tahiti. We all also know how that same guy or girl ended up skulking back a few years later feeling like a moron, not to mention broke. 3. The most important factor in a relationship is not communication, but respect. What I can tell you is the number one thing is respect. It's not sexual attraction, looks, shared goals, religion or lack of, nor is it love. There are times when you won't feel love for your partner. But you never want to lose respect for your partner. Once you lose respect, you will never get it back. Lori. As I scanned through the hundreds of responses I received, I began to notice an interesting trend. People who had been through divorces almost always talked about communication being the most important part of making things work. Talk frequently. Talk openly. Talk about everything, even if it hurts. And there is some merit to that, which I'll get to later. But I noticed that the thing people with happy marriages going on 20, 30, or even 40 years talked about most was respect. My sense is that these people, through sheer quantity of experience, have learned that communication, no matter how open, transparent, and disciplined, will break down at some point. Conflicts are pretty much unavoidable and feelings will always be hurt. And the only thing that can save you and your partner, that can cushion you both to the hard landing of human fallibility, is an unerring respect for one another. It's crucial that you hold each other in high esteem, believe in one another, often more than you each believe in yourselves, and trust that your partner is doing his/her best with what they've got. Without that bedrock of respect, you will begin to doubt each other's intentions. You will judge your partner's choices, and encroach on their independence. You will feel the need to hide things from one another for fear of criticism. And this is when the cracks in the edifice begin to appear. 4. Talk openly about everything, especially the stuff that hurts. We always talk about what's bothering us with each other, not with anyone else. We have so many friends who are in marriages that are not working well, and they tell me all about what is wrong. I can't help them, they need to be talking to their spouse about it. If you can figure out a way to be able to always talk with your spouse about what's bugging you, then you can work on the issue. Ronnie. 5. A healthy relationship means two healthy individuals understand that it is up to you to make yourself happy, it is not the job of your spouse. I am not saying you shouldn't do nice things for each other, or that your partner can't make you happy sometimes. I am just saying don't lay expectations on your partner to make you happy. It is not their responsibility. Figure out as individuals what makes you happy as an individual, then you each bring that to the relationship. Mandy. Everyone talks about sacrifices in a relationship. You're supposed to keep the relationship happy by consistently sacrificing yourself to your partner and their wants and needs. It's true that every relationship requires each person to consciously choose to give something up at times. The problem comes when all of the relationship's happiness is contingent on the other person, and both people are in a constant state of sacrifice. Just read that again. Doesn't it sound horrible? A relationship based on constant and mutual sacrifices can't be sustained and will eventually become damaging to both individuals. 6. Give each other space. Be sure you have a life of your own, otherwise it is harder to have a life together. Have your own interests, your own friends, your own support network, and your own hobbies. Overlap where you can, but not being identical should give you something to talk about, and helps to expand your horizons as a couple. James. One of the most regular things people who got in touch said was to do with the importance of creating space and separation from a partner.